Good day, everyone. My name is Florence Opudele, and you are watching the Multicultural Community Hour. I come from a culture where community defines the people. Community is everything. My culture believes that a thriving community is the foundation for fulfilling life potentials. We therefore place huge emphasis on making the community strong. The show is about our community and your community. Today we are joined by Perla Javate. She is the founder and president of the Philippine Heritage Council of Manitoba, where they have been spearheading meaningful events and initiatives for over 2 decades. As co-chair of the Ethnocultural Council of Manitoba, Perla works to amplify the voices of diverse communities, fostering inclusion and empowerment. Their contributions have earned numerous accolades, including the King Charles Coronation Medal and the RBC Top 25 Canadian Immigrant Award. With a rich background in intercultural support and a passion for storytelling, they've dedicated their life to celebrating the heritage, building connections, and inspiring others. Welcome, Perla, to the show.
Thank you, Florence, for having me.
I'm truly, truly honored to have you join us today. Viewers at home, you are watching and listening to one of the foundation members of the Philippines Heritage of Manitoba. Perla arrived in Canada in the 70s, right?
In 1976.
It's 1976. And I am interviewing you today because I am so thrilled when I read your story and having known you in the community as a hardworking person. I wanted to bring you to the show so that viewers can have a chance of hearing your story as well. As an immigrant to this country, I came in 2000 and Perla came in 1976. So I've known her in the community as a very hardworking person that helps our community grow. So today, Perla, I want you to talk to viewers about your experience leaving your country and coming to Canada and settling in Manitoba.
Okay. My immigrant story is not the usual immigrant story where you come with your family. When I left the Philippines, I was hired as social worker for a group of young women who will be working as garment workers in the Netherlands. So I brought 56 women with me to a small town in the eastern part of the Netherlands. We were moved from a small village to a bigger town, to Amsterdam and back to the town, which tells you the movement that's been happening at that time because there were a lot of changes in the factory. But they're the second largest factory in the Netherlands. When they found that their products, because they're so expensive with the labor costs, they decided to close down all their companies. So we were caught in the middle of a contract that was supposed to be 3 years. We ended up ending it by 2.5 years earlier. No, 2.5 years after. So as the social worker of the group, and at that time it is a group of 124 women, two groups together, I had to look for an exit country for them because no one wanted to go back home knowing that they won't have any jobs in the Philippines. So I contacted Silpit Industries of Winnipeg because at that time, the girls that I was working with knew people from here who knew that the garment industry in Winnipeg was flourishing. So I contacted the office of Silpit Industries, and I encouraged them to come and visit because these are skilled workers ready to just produce when they come. So they sent the consultant. I met him in Amsterdam, brought him over to the Achterhoek where we were, and out of 124 women, he offered 92 women jobs.
Wow.
92 of them came over to Canada, and I attended to all their papers until we started coming in 76. So that's my story. I brought 92 women.
Wow, 92 women.
Yes,
Wow.
92 women.
Interesting. And did all the women settle in Manitoba, or did they find
Majority of them are still here.
okay.
Some of them moved over to either the bigger cities in Ontario and in BC. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, so quite a few of them went back to school, and they ended up doing various jobs. Others kept working in the factory, where they were good workers. In terms of even working piece by piece, they're very fast.
Wow.
So some of them, but they're at the point now where most of them are retired.
Retired.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Perla. We're listening to the stories, viewers. This is a story that started in before 1976, I guess.
Yeah,
You
left the
realize-
Philippines in 1973.
Okay. So in 1973, you're already a social worker,
Yes,
and then you used your skills.
yes,
And it's very, very important for viewers to hear this, because sometimes we talk about transferring our skills in our new community so that we can use our skills to work. And here is a woman who used her skills to propel 92 women into Canada at the time when there was no internet, I guess.
yes.
And there was no cell phones.
No,
And it's letter writing.
yes.
And then you go to the post office to go check whether.
Exactly. That was another world at that time.
So communication wasn't as easy as it is right now, but you were able to navigate that.
I was able to navigate that. I had to use the phone. I connected with the administration of Silpit Industries, and basically I have to be there, like meet him in Amsterdam, brought him to the place where we were.
Are they still in existence, the company?
Not anymore, because the company had a lot of other branches as well. So they really hired a lot of people working in the industry. Out of the 124, the remainder stayed in the Netherlands, because I also negotiated with the labor department
Okay.
of the Netherlands, because they usually don't allow people to stay without a valid visa. But I was able to convince them that they will not be liabilities to the country. All they needed was a job. Find a job and they'll be fine. So the rest of them stayed in the Netherlands and settled there.
And settled there.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Perla. Viewers at home, you are watching New Multicultural channel, and today as our guest we have the Indomitable. As Nigerians will talk about it, you are a pace setter, a futuristic looking woman who is able to bring in 92 people in 1976 to settle in Canada. And today, I just want to link, it's important that our viewers at home know that things haven't really changed, because today we still have companies that are hiring abroad. And it's interesting that you were a liaison, you reached out, and they also connected with you. But companies these days don't actually look at the people, they look at agents. We will come back to that. I
Okay.
want us to talk about the trauma that is associated to immigration.
Okay.
I know trauma, sometimes when we talk about trauma, we don't look at trauma in relation to immigration. But there is a lot of trauma associated to migrating from one country to another. And I just want us to talk about your post. It's called I think it's the pre-migration trauma. Where am I going? How will I fit in? How can I get a job? How can I get my housing? Is my English good enough? And I think these are all the pre-migration trauma.
First of all we wanted was an exit from country where we can go. Because
Do they all speak English? Sorry.
most of the girls spoke English, not at the level where it's really, the fluency is there for some of them, but with the basic English for everyone, it was there. being the social worker, I was given a visa as a group worker. Okay, not that I was going to be a group worker for them, but just because I was helping them in the process, I guess. So the government gave me that. It was easy, At that time, getting a visa was not that complicated. It was just the work that I had to do dealing with the consulate. But before we left, my personal experience was they were explaining to me as a social worker what I can do, how much I will be paid for, and all that. So it gives you a really good sense of what's going to happen when you come here. Um, Going in with a whole group is also a plus because you know that you group yourselves together and you can easily find accommodation without necessarily spending so much.
That's it.
So we did that, and we're used to group living, because that's what I did for them, helping them in group living when we were in the Netherlands. So they were prepared for that.
Wow.
But personally, the trauma started not before, but after when I came here. Because as a social worker, you wanted to end up in a job using your skills. And I wanted to settle in Toronto to start with. I was in Toronto for 4 months, deciding to stay there because it's closer to New Jersey where my family is. So with a very good resume, I started spreading it all over. 4 months,
Wow.
no response. I went to a counselor, a government counselor, immigrant counseling, and he said, "You don't have Canadian experience, so that's the reason why people are not hiring you." Then finally, when I got a job to work in a group home for troubled women, troubled girls, I said, before I start working, because I knew when I start working, I would be able to move around. I had a free ticket from my former employer, in appreciation for the work I did.
Oh.
So
Wonderful.
I flew to Winnipeg to check out on the women that I shipped here to see how they are. So, but while I was here, I started looking for a job as well, because much as I got a job there already, it's not something that excited me, because I did, working for troubled girls at the outset without knowing what a normal Canadian girl is.
Yeah.
I didn't feel very confident doing that.
Wow, that's a good point to raise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started looking around, and again, my counselor was saying, "How can I hire you if you don't have any Canadian experience?" But at that time, because 4 months after, almost at the verge of depression, my usual humble self, because in the Philippines, when you look for a job, you don't sell yourself and boast about everything that you've done, because
Right.
that will be a minus for you, right?
Yeah.
So at that time, I said, there's no way I will get the same response and not be encouraged to do what I needed to do. So I answered him back and I said, "How do you know I cannot do the job if you don't even give me a chance?"
Good.
So that's the first being assertive action that I did after being, meek, prior to. And then the counselor said, "Here's the phone. Ask for an interview."
Wow.
So he tested me right then and there. So I phoned, and this is with Balmoral Hall School, acting as assistant head of residence. So I took the phone and connected with the office and asked for an interview. I was given a date and a time for an interview with the principal, the headmaster at that time. I went, I got the job,
Wow.
and I went back the following day to the counselor and I said, I got the job. It's not enough. It's just a part-time job. I need another one. And then he changed his, attitude toward me after that. He gave me willingly,
Wow.
another tip that I can connect with. And I got the other job too.
Wow, it was like Winnipeg was meant for you, not
Not in
Ontario.
Toronto,
Not
yeah.
in Toronto,
I should have
yeah.
been there because that's what I wanted. Actually, when I was able to work already here, I worked with a post-psychiatric group home, that's our real, and I worked as residential care staff. Again, at the very outset, I didn't know, because I was new. I had to supervise kitchen work of the residents because it was a work program.
Yeah.
When I did that, first day, my coworker said, "Can you go to the kitchen and check the roast?" I said, "What do I do?" Because I didn't have a clue what to do with it. Working with an oven and all that. So anyway, she scratched her head and told me what to do. 6 months after, I was managing it.
See, that's the resiliency that is associated with
Yes.
immigrant stories. Thank you so much, Perla.
Okay.
It's wonderful that you will give us the background of your migration from Philippines, Netherlands, and then Canada, and how you ended up in Winnipeg. So far, since you've been in Winnipeg, Perla has done a lot of things in the school board, in the schools, in the area of schools, right?
Yes.
Students and with families. And one of the things, I must read this from your resume. It says, you liaise between school administrators and teachers and Filipino students, parents and community, the beginning of influx of Filipinos in Winnipeg. Of course, she arrived with 92 women. So it's not a wonder that you will see to the influx of Filipino communities in Winnipeg. You also intensively conducted orientation both at the schools and families and community to understanding and respect. After school programs for new arrival youth to orient themselves to the do's and don'ts of Canada and expectation of schools. Like you rightly asked the question, how can I get the experience if I'm not given a chance? How can I know what troubles the youth? How can I help them when I don't know what troubles them?
Yes.
It's a valid question that some of us don't even ask. And viewers at home today, you are watching the You Multicultural channel. And today we have Perla as our guest. I'm hoping that a lot of you will tune in and watch this wonderful individual who has transformed the Filipino community to what they are today. Since I arrived in Manitoba in 2000, I've always heard about that name. I've always heard about her, and I eventually got to meet with her and to work with her in various committees. She's such a wonderful, futuristic, and adventurous human being that we'd love to have her in our community. I just want to thank you, Perla. Thank you for all that you are doing. It's hard for me to even understand that you are retired. I always forget that she's retired because she's always everywhere. She's still out and about. And that is to testify to the passion that you have in building a very strong community. So thank you for that. I want to pick on one thing that you have said about immigrants coming from a culture where we don't sell ourselves. We don't talk about ourselves. And sometimes when we go for work interviews, and I know viewers at home, some of this might be your experience as well. The first shot you have is talk about yourself. Yes, talk about yourself. I remember being asked that question, and I'm like, I don't know what to talk about myself. I'm just, Yeah. But the lady said, do you have kids? I said, yes. Do you have a home? I said, yes. can you cook? I said, yes. Can you clean? I said, yes. Can you write? Can you teach? Can you? And as she was mentioning it, more and more skills start coming on. So I want you to go back to, and then I think this is the settlement and integration part of an immigration experience. Talking about yourself and how a lot of people now, I'm sure you've worked with newcomer communities. What stories do they tell you? Has it improved from what your experiences and their experiences? Is there any improvement, or how can we make their life better?
When we started with the Ethnocultural Council, the first Stronger Together dinner we had, I was asked to relay my story to a crowd of 400 people with mixed cultures. And I said, why me? You know, I came so many years ago, decades ago, and my story is obsolete, no? So anyway, I told the story. At the end of it, a lot of them came to me. They said, they really thanked me and appreciated my story because they are going through it still.
Yeah.
So it's still there. We still have a lot of work with government and with immigrant serving agencies because we come from another country with hopes, with a lot of hope. And our first experience in the country is really important. If we want to have people who are happy, contributing members of society, and have a peaceful, society. And so the work with new immigrants is really very important. I was lucky enough to work with the Winnipeg School Division, where I specifically worked with the young people who are coming here, going through our educational system. That is a very traumatic experience for a lot of our kids because language would be one. They may be able to read very easily a text that you give them, but the comprehension isn't there. And the expressive language isn't there. So they're wondering why the marks they have in the report card is 90 or 80, and then at the same time, it doesn't make sense. I have to tell them that 70, which is a very high mark, is the high mark here already, is a failing mark in the Philippines. 75 is passing. And the skills are there, but they're not able to show it right out. Because, for instance, they have to be adjusting to their surrounding. There's a problem of kids not eating the food that they bring because they feel they're so different with the others. So until the mom starts giving them pizza and sandwiches and all that. So, those adjustments that are being done. And then also expectations of parents for kids to come home with high marks because that's their experience back home. And now they cannot show the same ability.
It's important that you raise that point because I know for me that comes from Nigeria, we always pride in our children bringing home good grades. Oh, all his or her marks are 90, 100%. But the expression of those knowledge,
yes,
isn't there. And I think that's where a lot of immigrant children struggle. But I want to come back. I want to tie that to the community that we are in right now. From my African culture perspective, someone like you, in my culture, of course, you're an elder in every culture. You're an elder, not just an elder, but a piece and valuable information. Like there's a lot of information and experience that needs to be passed on to the coming up generation. And I guess my question will be, how do you think the communities coming up now, our cultural community, can benefit from your experience and begin to support schools in the area of new immigrants or immigrant children trying to adapt adaptation?
One thing that was done during our time when Winnipeg One realized that kids coming from the Philippines needed help because they were getting into trouble, especially in high school, because they just felt they weren't understood. Even body language is so different. You call somebody like this, and that for a Filipino, that's very offensive. And that can raise, really heated arguments and sometimes a fight. Quite a few body language. Just talking to you with your arms like this, this means something like challenging. So a lot of other things that they are confronted with that they don't understand. And so they hired a liaison officer. I was actually the second one that was hired as liaison officer. And I was working with elementary kids. And even then, there were a lot of things that they had to go through with parents. And then that's why I ended up coming up with our own parenting program. Because the ones that were available then, parents did not believe will work with them because it's from a different point of view. It's not culturally appropriate for them.
I know you've long left that, but do you think those type of initiatives are still existing in our schools of today?
Today, they
Or they have
more or
something
less
different?
use whatever is these existing programs for parenting.
Okay.
But it's important that whoever gives it has the cultural background of the people they're working with. So that way they can tie up what works and what doesn't work.
It's curious, and I think I will have to look into this, maybe do a show on that as well, especially for our community that are settled more in the South. I will expect that schools in the South will be able to have someone that is able to talk to, bring kids together through that cultural lens and be able to, transfer this knowledge or allow the integration process to be slow and not in a traumatic way, right?
We do have intercultural support workers. Like the liaison positions that we had, it multiplied already because communities were coming in. The Vietnamese were coming in at that time. People from El Salvador and Chile and from the Spanish-speaking countries and Portuguese. There's Cambodia, Laotian. So they did hire intercultural support workers at that time. They call them intercultural support workers now because they help kids regardless of where they come from.
Okay.
So we do have, I'm not sure if there's about 9 or 10 in Winnipeg One, and they may be the only school division that has it because we do have a lot of newcomer students coming from other countries.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Perla. Viewers at home, you are watching the U Multicultural channel. And today we have as our guest Perla Javate, one of the founding members of the Filipino Heritage Council of Manitoba. Perla, I guess my next question will be on the Filipino communities. The association itself, the role they play in helping, the role they play in integration, in immigrants integration to kind of reduce the traumatic effect immigrants face while they are trying to integrate. I got this excerpt from one of the books, and it says there are lots of factors that can lead to trauma among immigrants, and support for migrants and refugees is vital. This may be in terms of state support, but also intra-community support, with community networks being important. I want you to talk to us about, at the time you came, that's the first question. At the time you came, was there any Filipino organization in existence?
There was already.
In 1976?
Yeah, in 76, there was already a Philippine. We did have a center, and we did have people running it at that time.
In Winnipeg here.
In Winnipeg.
No?
But I can say that because of the nature of immigration that we had, especially in the 80s and 90s when family reunification was opened. So families from here brought over their families from in the Philippines. Like with the 92 women that I brought here, imagine them bringing their moms, dads, their brothers and sisters, and then everybody, the siblings bringing their boyfriends and girlfriends over.
Yeah.
They multiplied so many times over.
Yeah.
And it's usually the family that takes care of them and the family that is connected with a group in the community. Churches is one of the very supportive groups. In our community now, there's over 35 different smaller denominations.
Oh, wow.
Aside from the Catholic Church and Iglesia ni Cristo, which are two big ones. It just tells you that it's one of the things that they look to in terms of support and their families. But there's the downside to it, though, because when they come and they depend on the family and the friends of their family to help them out, they miss out on government services and programs that are available for them. And that's, much as we relate to them these opportunities, usually because their families were the ones that brought them here, they listen to them more than what is available. So
Yeah.
and then all the interest is just to find job as soon as they arrive. Yes.
Oh, wow. It's interesting that you would say that. We always, like when I was reading about this topic, it was laying more emphasis on the help. I mean, I still think that communities do a lot of job, but it's interesting that you mentioned that why a lot of them are focused. And I see that, as you said, that it's exactly how it is. Some of the new immigrants that have family members and everybody supporting them do not integrate properly and faster than people who came without any help. They are they look forward to any help they can get from everywhere.
Right.
And it's interesting to know that it's also happening, not just in my community, but in other communities as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, but I just wanted to ask if, moving on, still on the community, is the Filipino community or the Philippines Association of Manitoba, I know it's a large organization, do they have any programs that is geared towards mitigating some of this stuff that you talked about that children experience, even in schools?
In schools, they're taken care of really well. And I can say at this point in time that our children, because of the changes in immigration, nature of immigration, in the 80s, with family reunification and all that, we did get a lot of immigrants coming from rural areas and smaller communities. And that sudden shift to an urban North American society can really be very traumatic.
Yeah.
But then now that there's been some change in our the criteria of coming over, where they would prefer those who have the language, specific professions and all that, it's a different group of people that are coming in.
Yeah.
So the problems that we had in the 80s may not exist at this point in time.
Wow, that's so wonderful. And yes, I think even when we did come in, a lot of immigrants that are family based, I mean, everybody can be family based, but family based might not be, but they talk about the family class, right? most of the immigrants were through family class, unlike now that it's centered more around profession and
professional field.
yeah, professional fields and all that. So it kind of makes those community to, I would say we are moving from the cultural community. Immigrants are now moving away from the cultural community to a professional community. And from your work, I just want to talk about your work on ethnocultural community, Ethnocultural Council of Manitoba. I wanted to ask, talking about those professional communities that are developing through immigration and still under immigrants, I wanted to ask whether do you see a lot of them coming through the Ethnocultural Council? And if they do, is there, like, I know in the area of certificate credential recognition, I think it's called, the Ethnocultural Council, do you see a lot of families struggling through this process?
With the Ethnocultural Council, because we don't give direct services, our connection is mainly with the community groups that we work with. We have over 22 different communities. And so whenever we have the opportunity to help them out, we do have federal funded projects that we give out services to the communities, and sometimes we partner with other organizations who have the resources to do it for us to reach out to our communities. So we just finished a project on violence against women, and for a lot of our communities as well, it's important for our men and women to know their rights and to make them feel safe here. If the things that they were they considered normal back home, and here with the standards we have in terms of our ability to live safely and peacefully and enjoy the rights that we have, we safeguard that by providing them the information. And that's how we deal with the different groups that we have. That's the same with the Philippine Heritage Council, because we do have over 100 different organizations.
Wow.
But we do have key ones, the big ones that I actually are part of the Philippine Heritage Council, who help in providing all these events about our Philippine culture, especially during Filipino Heritage Month. It's not, there's no specific Philippine Heritage Council. It's actually a conglomeration of all these groups helping together. And it's to give them the chance to work as a community and not a separate group.
A separate group. Wow. Thank you so much. I wanted to, I know there's just so much information that you have given us today regarding community. Viewers at home, you are watching Community Hour. And in our community, Winnipeg community, we have everyone, and everybody in the community have a role to play to make our community great. And today we are talking to Perla Javate, who has worked tremendously, passionately to pull the Filipino communities along and to bring them to where they are. And she has not just worked for the Philippines community, she's also worked for the greater community, because I'm from Nigeria, I'm from Africa, but I've also been a part of her experience and also been a part of her knowledge, having worked with her in various stages in our work in the community. So today, since we are concentrating on the community, I wanted to ask if throughout your experience, both in the schools, now you are a trustee in the school board, right? That's our recent role. You are a school board trustee, and also in the Ethnocultural Council of Manitoba, and also in the Philippines Association of Manitoba. I just want to ask, pulling all that stuff, still community together, what will you be if you are called to advise the government about immigrants and cultures and communities? What will be your advice? What is the one thing you will ask the government to put in place for communities?
Make sure government understand the different communities that they are inviting to Canada.
Good.
It's a very important first step for them, and not just brush them with just one stroke of a brush, because we all are distinct in our own ways. They need to understand us. They need to know our strengths and see if from those strengths the government can benefit as well and improve things in terms of dealing with us. It's important for us to sit with them on the table discussing policies, because we are a strong force in the country. We have to be heard.
Yeah.
And that's not happening yet, but we're hoping it will.
That's very, very important to note, because these policies, the receivers of these policies are the immigrants themselves. And it's a good thing if the voices could be heard at the table while forming the policies. But that's a great point you make. And I also want to flip that question around. What would be your advice to communities as they converge, as they continue to grow in Manitoba?
We all came to Canada, which is a multicultural society. Let's embrace it, learn from it, enrich our lives with it, and enjoy it. Because there's so much to learn from each other, so many good things that we can learn from each other.
Good.
And together we'll have a vital, happy, and peaceful society.
Thank you, viewers. You're watching the U Multicultural channel, and today we have as our guest Perla Javate, who is here to talk to us about her experiences as an immigrant to Canada. She migrated to Canada in 1976 and has been a strong foundational member of the Philippines Association of Manitoba. She has also created a lot of programs and initiatives that propel children from the Philippines and also families from Philippines who have migrated to Canada, helping them to integrate into their new society and helping them to establish their lives in Manitoba. So thank you, Perla. We've been talking to Perla about her work and all that she has done. And one of the questions I wanted to ask Perla, because her original intention was in Winnipeg, but she's lived in Winnipeg now for how many years?
Almost 50.
Almost 50 years. And my question to Perla is, if you will know what you know now, do you think you will have stayed in Winnipeg or stay in Toronto?
I think I was meant to be in Winnipeg, because somehow the sequence of events that happened to me just led me here. And a couple of times I tried to go back to Toronto, but I ended up here. Because after I worked for the mental health group home that I was with for 5 years, I resigned because I was ready to go back to Toronto.
Yeah.
With no reason at all. And then the advertisement for the liaison position for the schools opened up. And I said, I might as well apply for this because it sounds like the work that I like to do. And I got the job. So I ended up here. Now, when I retired, my plan was to settle in the States because I did receive my green card. My mom wanted me to join my sister there. So I had my green card. But then I kept postponing it. And then at some point when I was entering the States, they were asking why I haven't moved yet. And they were going to, I will be considered persona non grata because I'm holding on to my green card without really intending to move. So they said, that's will happen. I won't be able to come to get into the United States. I said, but I'm a Canadian citizen. But then that, I guess my green card will supersede in that way. I said, in that case, I am giving up my card.
Wow.
So I gave up my card again. So that's the second time. So that tells me
Yeah.
that
Manitoba
is my home. And
Manitoba is your home.
I know now that, and now I really, deep down, I know that Canada is Winnipeg is my home.
Wow. Viewers, in our community, we value people that makes our community stronger. We value people that helps us grow in our community. And we value people that helps us along the way to clear the path for us. Perla cleared the path for a lot of immigrants to Manitoba. She also cleared the path for a lot of families to settle properly in Manitoba. And she's so excitedly happy to be in Manitoba.
Yeah.
As we watch today's program as an immigrant, it's one question we also have to ask ourselves. How have we been able to contribute to the growth of our community here in Manitoba? That we can, after 50 years, rightly call this place and say, yes, I've done my fair share of work and this is my home.
Oh, really? Yeah. I'm telling you, it took me 10 years before I accepted that this is going to be my home. So for 10 years, one foot was out of Winnipeg and one foot was in.
I think for a lot of immigrants, immigrant families, we do that. We think about, oh, we are not going to settle here. Oh, we will leave, But so many times we never leave. We still stay back. I want to read from one book that I also read. It said, unfortunately, talking about feeling of, not being part of exclusion, unfortunately, many immigrants also face discrimination and social isolation in their new homes. The psychological effects of segregation and exclusion can be profound, leading to feelings of worthlessness, anger, depression. This social marginalization can create a vicious cycle, further hindering integration and exacerbating mental health issues. I remember at the beginning of the show, you talked about you felt a little bit, worthless when you were applying. And I believe it's same for every immigrant that have come to this country. Do you think it's better these days?
There has been some improvement because I know of people who are pretty new in the country who are able to settle even in government jobs, which was unthinkable before. And there are more progressive establishments that consider skills from other countries and hire them at the outset.
Wow.
There are exceptions now.
I see that as well. It's really amazing to see how far we've gone, where we were before, and where we are right now. So for all others, viewers at home who are watching, who have known someone who just came to Canada and landed themselves a very good job, I'm happy you're watching the show today to understand that back then,
Yes.
in the 70s and in the 2000s when I came, it wasn't so. It wasn't so at all. But that shows the progress we've made as a society. And we'll keep working on these progresses and make it more. We need to see more happen in the area of job search, and also in the area of credentials acknowledgement.
Credential acknowledgements, it's low, but
It's
it's happening now with our engineering group, with teachers.
Okay.
And medical field is still a problem.
Oh, medical, okay.
It still is. But I know our minister is working hard to make it accessible now to our nurses, especially our nurses who are here who are not practicing, and it's a waste of human resource.
It is. And a lot of medical doctors and nurses that...
As early as 76, we were talking about that already.
Wow.
And it's very slow coming.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Perla, for being here,
It's a
for being our
pleasure.
guest today. We are truly honored to have you. And thank you, viewers, for joining our show and for watching the You Multicultural channel. It's been a pleasure to have you, and it's been a pleasure to have you, Perla, as well. Thank you, and join us once again next time as we talk to another community member who is doing great work.